Here's how you can breed strong and powerful Pokemon in Pokemon Break Bronze. When it comes to breeding Pokemon, things are quite straightforward. Pokemon can have 1 to 2 egg groups. Egg groups allow Pokemon to interbreed, meaning that you don't have to strictly breed within a Pokemon species. This means, for instance, a Charizard breeding with another Charizard or one of its pre-evolutions. The undiscovered egg group consists of legendaries and mythicals, and they cannot be bred. The two Pokemon you decide to breed must be both within the same egg group and must be opposite genders. If you're breeding two different species, the female of the two will be the type of Pokemon egg you will receive, unless you have a Ditto. Ditto is special, having its own egg group. It is a genderless Pokemon that can breed with any other Pokemon, minus the undiscovered group. This means that you can breed it with a male Pokemon, and the type of egg you'll receive will be that male Pokemon species. This is an exemption from a typical breeding pair, whereas the female Pokemon decides what type of egg you're receiving. In order to breed two Pokemon, you'll have to travel all the way to Laguna Lake. There you'll find a daycare, in which you'll be able to hand over your Pokemon to a nurse, which will keep your Pokemon in that daycare and take care of them. Your Pokemon will breed based on the factors that we've mentioned previously, but you can also check whether or not they're compatible by talking to the old man standing by the daycare. There are various replies the daycare attendant standing outside can give you. They would rather play with other Pokemon though. This means they are incompatible for breeding. Check if they're the same gender and share an egg group. They don't seem to like each other that much. This means they are different species and are from the same original trainer. They will breed, but with a 20% chance of producing an egg every 256 steps. The two seem to get along. This means they are different species with an original trainer. They have a 50% chance of making an egg every 256 steps you take, which is an egg cycle. We'll get to that in a second. The two get along very well. This means they are the same species and have different original trainers. You will have a 70% chance of an egg every 256 steps. An egg cycle is the amount of steps required for an egg to be laid or hatch. You can find the amount of egg cycles required for an egg to hatch on Pokemon wikis, which you can find a link for them in the description below this video. Now, many of you may be wondering how you can breed powerful Pokemon. The stat that determines whether or not a Pokemon is strong are called individual values, or in other words, IVs. It is a randomized set of stats that is given to every Pokemon. These stats range from 0 to 31, and there are 6 stats in total. If you've been at the trade resort, you may have seen people say 5 times 31 or 6 times 31. That's essentially what they're referring to. The more perfect IVs a Pokemon has, the stronger it is. There are many ways you can breed stronger Pokemon, but amongst these methods comes the use of breeding items. These include Destiny Knots, the Everstone, and Instances. The Destiny Knot is a must-have when breeding. Typically, 3 random IVs are taken from the 2 parents and given to the egg. However, the Destiny Knot takes and gives it 5 random IVs. The higher IVs a Pokemon has, the more valuable it is. You can give the Destiny Knot to either parent and it will affect both, meaning only one is necessary. Keep in mind, the higher IVs the parents have, the higher likelihood the baby will have high IVs. You can buy a Destiny Knot from the arcade in Ancient City for around 7,500 ticks. An Everstone is used for passing down a particular nature. It is given to the female or Ditto and has a 50% chance of passing down the nature that it has. This is especially useful for games that don't have nature mints. You can find Everstones whilst digging underwater in the Laguna trenches by a submarine. You can also alter what kind of Pokemon is bred by giving parents instances. Instances are used for breeding baby Pokemon. Baby Pokemon are self-explanatory. They're the first evolution Pokemon who cannot breed. There are a few Pokemon that need certain instances in order to be bred. These are Azurill, which requires a sea instance, Budru, which requires a rose instance, Barnsley, which requires a rock instance, Happiny, which requires a luck instance, Mantike, which requires a wave instance, Waynard, which requires a lax instance, Chingling, which requires a pure instance, Mime Jr., which requires an odd instance, and Notchlax, which requires a full instance. Instances can be found in the PvP Coliseum in most copies. Subscribe for more Pokemon Break Bronze content.